be seated. Oscar Wilde once said, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all." Well, as you all know, and I have had the privilege to learn, Peter Thomas Gwynnfor Williams did not just exist. Peter's actions created experiences, even in the most simplistic moments of life. And it is these that created lessons, stories, and memories, not only for him, but for all of those around him. And this is why I have the great honour today of leading today's service to celebrate the gift that is Peter's life. A testament to a life well lived, I welcome here today not only his family and friends present in the chapel, but also those friends and family from around the world, who, in time, will be taking their very own moment and to join you in the sacred celebration of Peter. And so, we welcome those joining us today from locations close to Peter's heart, such as his homeland Wales, the country that brought him and Heather great happiness, and where many lifelong friendships were formed, that is of course Israel, and from Hong Kong, where family members have created their own home with those they love. Although Peter travelled extensively throughout his life, he always loved his home, no matter where in the world that may be. And so we start today's service where the story of his life would begin, and in the first nation he would call home, and that is of course Wales. Peter was born in Cardiff on the 30th of October 1931 and was the youngest of 5 siblings by a country mile. In fact, there is even a picture of Peter as a page boy at his sister's wedding in 1933. From a young age, Peter was a lover of the written word and an intelligent individual. He attended Howard Garden Grammar School for Boys before going on to be the first in his family to attend university at Cardiff, and where he continued his passion for words by studying English. Peter's time at university would not only provide an enlightening education, but it would also provide him with a love for more than literature, when one evening he chanced upon a friend escorting home a young lady by the name Heather. As the 3 of them chatted away, Peter learnt that Heather was a fellow student in her first year at the university. The pair hit it off, and Peter asked Heather on a date, with the rest, as they say, history. The pair married in the December after Heather's graduation and spent a wonderful 64 years together as man and wife. After graduating from university himself, Peter joined the Royal Air Force, based at St Athens, home to No. 4 Technical Training School. Here he would become a flying officer, not that he piloted any planes. Upon leaving the Air Force, Peter went on to work for Guest-Keen and Netterfold Steelworks, which saw the young couple move from Barry, where they had lived, and where Heather had started her career as a teacher. They moved to Cardiff and bought their own home. It was during this time that Peter would take on another great role, one that would last an eternity, and that was the role of daddy to his firstborn daughter, Cyril, and who would later be followed by her beloved sister, Rhiannon. Peter would go on to work for many companies over the years, including the Meckalock Water Company and British Airways, formerly known as BOAC. And his work for these companies took him and his family around the globe. Heather recalls a story from when they lived in Israel in the beautiful village of Nothiam. Peter was working on assignment for Meckalock Water Company, and with the young Cyril, she'd asked him if he could get some water for her christening, and could that water be from the Jordan River? To which he replied, "Turn on the tap." This was not only a valid point, but a testament to his humour. And so Cyril would go on to be christened in Israel and with water from the Jordan. Although their time in Israel was short, as with most things, time cannot measure happiness, and these months were full of happiness and would create friendships that would last a lifetime. It has been said that Peter didn't need to have people in his life. He did not desperately yearn for hundreds of friends. Instead, he enjoyed and cherished the company of those friendships he created through mutual kindness, generosity, and of course, laughter. For Peter and Heather, they found friendships in Israel that were with friends going on to be present at their daughters' weddings and some of their grandchildren's christenings. They say, you do not travel to escape, but for life not to escape you. And if ever further evidence was needed by anyone to prove that Peter was the rarity of which Oscar Wilde spoke of, Israel wouldn't be his family's only adventure. Incidentally, escape too would become a feature of their adventures. Take, for example, the holiday where Peter, Heather, and two girls aged under 10 headed to Africa. Peter would drive his young family from game reserve to game reserve, from Mombasa to Nairobi. A brave undertaking, even today, and one, as you've guessed, required the family to escape on more than one occasion. Reliant on Daddy's driving and a little Datsun Cherry that did 0 to 60 in about 10 minutes, they relied on both of these to get them to safety, away from spears being thrown by Maasai tribes, and on another occasion saved them from being squashed by stampeding rhinos. Heather, Cyril and Rhiannon vividly recall these experiences with much joy and a touch of amusement. After returning from Israel and taking on a few other roles, Peter and his family settled in Maidenhead, where he worked for BOAC. And with that, travel continued to be a huge part of family life. From weeks away to day trips, such as the one taken by Peter, Heather and Rhiannon to Amsterdam in celebration of Peter and Heather's wedding anniversary, with Cyril feeling rather jealous on receipt of a postcard simply saying, "Wish you were here." Rhiannon also accompanied her daddy to China just before his retirement in the mid-90s. This was one of many times that Peter would visit the country. Their travels together were one of the many things that bonded Cyril and Rhiannon to their parents, and what made their family dynamic so special. Although Peter travelled often, not just with his family, but also for work, he always had a way about him that made his children feel that he was ever present in their lives. One way he did this for his girls was by sending regular postcards to them during their university days. Cyril recalls how she would often receive a postcard which he'd invariably sign off with a P for Polonius, both ironic and a nod to his ever-present and occasionally controversial sense of humour. Oh, and his love of literature. Although the postcards of course contained words, and the words he loved so much, they stood for much more than that. It was Rumi that said, words are a pretext. It is the inner bond that draws one person to another, not words. And it was how Peter used his words to display the bonds created through experiences with those he held dear. While some of the experiences he cultivated were amidst glorious adventures in distant lands, these were not the only experiences Peter cherished, nor the only experiences he taught his children and grandchildren to value. His love for reading the Sunday Times every week without fail, taking that time out of life religiously, was something he upheld, even on special occasions, much to his family's anguish at times, such as the day of the christening of one of his grandchildren. It was experiences such as simply looking out of the window at the garden or having an ice cream on family days out, where he'd invariably end up with a little bit of ice cream down his shirt after Heaven had taken a bite from the cone, or the experiences of having dinner together as a family of four, yet making the noise of a much rather larger family as they talked about everything and anything under the sun. Peter, and of course Heather, had always ensured that their children never lost the wonder and curiosity with which they were born. A simple pleasure, but an important one. He instilled these values not only in his children, but in his grandchildren, Sedona, Clark, Savannah, Summer, Aneurin, Muriel, and Arwell. As it passed to the next generation, it is inevitably visible in all of them. Take, for example, Aneurin's pupperesque sense of humour, or the lively debates within Cyril's car on the school run, which amazes her children's friends. Peter built a relationship with his children and grandchildren that transcended parental rhetoric. Through friendship, kindness, and encouragement, he would leave a legacy, the basis of which was love. Love of life, love of experiences, love of knowledge, but most of all, love for each other. And so, if after hearing about Peter and his life, there was any doubt left to the fact that he did not only exist, let the love surrounding him and you all today be testament to the undeniable conclusion that Peter Thomas Grenfell Williams lived a life, and it was a life well lived. I now invite you all to take a moment and reflect upon the story of Peter's life, as well as your own special memories with him, as we listen to Kumunda.
Bread of
university, and it was at Cardiff, with Heather, that he would attend a talk hosted by a visiting guest speaker. That guest speaker was none other than the infamous Dylan Thomas, and as fate would have it, it would be the last public event at which he would speak. And so, we shall now hear from two of Peter's grandchildren, Arwell and Clark, as they read Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night.
Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, a poem by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men and their end should know dark is right, because their words have forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Wild men who caught and sung the sun in flight, and learn, too late, they grooved on its way. Do not go gentle into their good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Thank you both. That was read beautifully, and I'm sure your papa will be very proud. Now, before we go on to hear more memories from the grandchildren, I invite you all to take a moment and listen to the song We'll Keep Her Welcome, performed by a choir which was founded by Peter's father Philip and his uncle Emery's, and that is the choir, the Lyrian Singers.
We'll keep her welcome in the hillside. We'll keep her welcome in the vale. This laughing blue will still be singing when you come home again to where this night of song will keep her welcome and with a love that never
shall now hear from Sedona with a video message dedicated to her papa and accompanied by photos from Peter's life.
I remember asking Papa what his wishes were for his body after he died. He told me he wanted to be buried under the walnut tree in his front garden so that his spirit could scare the squirrels away. We are here to celebrate the amazing life of Peter Williams, husband, friend, father and grandfather. He lived a long 89 years on this planet, and my God did he make his mark. His witty, loving and funny personality etched a part in the hearts of every person that he met, and as a result of this, he will be deeply missed. I think Papa's sense of humour was extremely familiar to every person in his life. He had a witty response or pun to throw into every conversation that he had subtly been brewing while you spoke, followed by his warm smile and laugh. From his questionable jokes, such as the one I began with, to his hiding of my sister's teddy around the house and then forgetting where it was, Papa never ever failed to lift people's moods. Humour aside, I can't tell you how much of an icon my grandfather has been to me throughout my whole life. He taught me so much. From our beautiful nightly walks to look at the evening star, to standing on the shore wave jumping, we have so many happy memories. I miss you singing to me when I was going to bed as a little girl, telling me how much everyone loved me. I miss you religiously getting the Sunday Times every single morning, no matter how much it riled people up. I miss you slipping money into my pocket so we could sneak away and get an ice cream each, your absolute favourite. I miss the way you spoke about the beautiful fields behind our house, how you could sit and stare at them for hours. I miss our picnics down at the lock in the summer and our family holidays. I miss the complete flattery you gave me every time I was in your company, never ever failing to boost my self-esteem. Although we all miss you huge amounts, the memories that you have left us with are stronger than the pain. You have made a lasting mark on so many people's lives, and you will never be forgotten.
Thank you, Sedona, for sharing a beautiful message, not only illustrating your bond and love for one another, but for all those that he held dear in his life. Now invite Anirin, who is going to share memories of Papa. Please join me.
Thank you. I just want to say how beautiful this is. Papa would absolutely love this. I can just see him standing out there in one of his hats, looking at the scenery. He'd love this. Anyway, so. I once heard the idea for a man is to die young as late as possible. Well, Papa did that. Papa's childlike qualities of boundless love, innocence, optimism, wandering joy never truly left him. Yet neither did the marks of a true gentleman: responsibility, respect, wisdom. Perhaps that's what Papa's real memory will be for all of us. A guide, a collection of memories of a man to make us better versions of ourselves. Sometimes in life you're dealt a good hand. I think I can speak for each of us, saying we were dealt a good hand. We could not have been luckier with the grandparents we were given. Going down to Grandma and Papa's, and it will always be Grandma and Papa's, their vitality, thirst for knowledge, and their sense of wonder meant we'd be off to Windsor Castle, Clifton, Stowe, Laycock and more, where Grandma would call you over to inspect the crockery of a long-dead duke, or retelling the scandalous story of the perfumer affair, whilst Papa would admire the countryside and get one of his hats. Back home, he'd tell stories of travelling in the world, meeting villagers in communist China who had newspapers as wallpaper, meeting cowboys in Arizona, taking us to play golf, and always saying, it was probably me or Arwen and Clark, that we were the best he had seen. There was only one who was really the best. You know what he'd say to that? No, you've got such a big head. Kind of like that Donald Duck. Of course, we had the ice creams. Let's stop for a dinner at a pub. These are memories we have. Just the 7 of us. The Horvath Jameson Club. The secret password? Thank you. We're so lucky. We had so much fun. I don't think many grandchildren can say they have fun with their grandma and papa. I know there are quite a lot of grandparents there. I'm sure that all your grandchildren can say the same thing. In fact, I found an old script which must be over 10 years old, and I think it might be nice to read it out now. This was something we did on Christmas Day for Mummy and Daddy and Grandma and Papa. Mummy and Daddy, Grandma and Papa, and the world of Christmas. Welcome to the famous entertainment trio of Aneurin, Muriel, and Arlen, of the famous Horvath family. And I'll introduce the programme with a story about St. Nicholas. Now, I think at this point, I can't remember exactly. I read a piece from a book I got from Grandma and Papa for my first Christmas, which was the night before Christmas. I can't remember exactly. And then we three will sing We Three Things. Not going to embarrass Meryl and I'll ask them to sing it now. But it was fun. He was a fun grandfather. Having listened to me so far, I think I might in some ways be betraying some of my most vivid memories of Papa. His intelligence and natural curiosity for all things in life. Now, he was the first to say he was no Latin scholar. There's an old story he used to tell of his Latin master coming in. Williams! I've never seen anything like him. Yes, sir? You thought you'd done quite well, right? 0. But that apart, I remember stories of him growing up as a boy in Cardiff during the war, when we were on holidays to Italy, speaking of his love of Dickens and Shakespeare over coffee at our local bookstore in Southfields, where we used to live. In all his grandchildren, I think Papa instilled a love of learning, through meeting new people, travelling, reading, and so much more. Whenever we spoke to Papa, there was one recurring event. Papa tapping us on the shoulder, pulling us to one side, pointing at Grandma, Mummy, or Auntie Cyril, and saying, so lucky to have Grandma, or your mother. She's so beautiful, she's so smart, she's so hardworking. You all made him so happy, so happy. He loved you so much. And in fact, writing this, I realised Papa simply found joy in everything in life. His wife, his daughters, his grandchildren, his house which he loved so much, ice cream, music, travels, his pride in his work, I could go on. But that word joy, that's Papa to me. Papa always said he wanted to go to church more often, and whilst that didn't happen quite as much as he wanted, I can't think of a man who carried the words of Christ in his heart more than Papa. His love for all men, forgiveness for those who did wrong, sorrow for those who suffer, and admiration for the world we live in. In Psalms, the Bible says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it." To me, Papa did this to the day he died. The last time I saw Papa, I bought him a photo album, which on the inside cover had a photo of young Grandma. I showed it to him, and all he said was, "Ah." His eyes lit up in his frail body, She's so beautiful. I'm so lucky. If I have one memory of Papa, it's to love your family. The last thing Papa said to me was, "You're a gentleman." Well, Papa, I learned that from you. Thank you.
Well, I think I should be worried about my job. Thank you for sharing such special memories and delivered with the humour that I've come to learn is a touch of your Papa. Now, before the committal, for those of you who wish to join me, please join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. It is now time to say your final fond farewells to Peter. So I ask that if you are able, please stand for the committal. Peter, your family and friends thank you for all the lessons you taught them. They thank you for the confidence you instilled in them and for the joy every experience and adventure with you, be it big or small, brought to their lives. But most of all, they thank you for the love you shared with them, a love that will not only never fade from their hearts, but a love that will go with you now as you rest in the hands of God, as we commit your body to be cremated. Please be seated. I would now like to invite Summer, who is going to share with you all an extract for A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, which details sentiments for you all to keep close to your heart as you move forward with your journey. Summer.
If there ever is a tomorrow when we're not together, there is something you must always remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you feel, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even if we're apart, I'll always be with you.
Thank you, Summer. That was both beautiful and brave of you. And so as Summer's reading of A.L. Milne so eloquently summarised, Peter will always be with you. And although grief is a natural part of losing someone you hold so dear, Peter would not want you to go on living only in sadness, only existing. Instead, he would want you to do what he has done, and that is to find happiness in life's simplest pleasures, to make the most of all of life's experiences, keeping hold throughout of your wonder and curiosity. He would want you all to laugh heartily and loudly, so loud that he can join in. In doing all of these things, you will not only create a life with love of experiences, but you will continue to show and to share the love that Peter still has for you. And just as we summarised in Peter's story, if you have love, then not only will you have lived, but you will have lived a life well. And Peter would want that for each and every one of you. And so, although it's not possible to continue celebrating Peter's life as you once would have, after today's service, pour yourself a glass of wine, or for those not of age, feast on Peter's favourite treat, ice cream, all in his honour. And while you do that, think of the memories you made with him and the joy that they'll continue to bring to you. And so, The time has come to conclude Peter's celebration of life with the song Going Home, sung by an artist Peter admired greatly for his beliefs, and that was Paul Robeson.
There's no break, there's no end, just